Hi, I'm Kathy Jentz. I'm editor of Washington Gardener magazine. That's Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, all about local gardening and everything that grows in this area. You can find us at washingtongardener.com online, and I'm here to talk to you about breaking down a supermarket flower bouquet into several smaller bouquets. So I get this question a lot when I give talks on flower arranging, and simple basics is what we're going to do today, so no stress, no worries. You pick up your typical flower arrangements, $3.99 to $19.99, depending on how many premium flowers are in the bouquet and what time of year it is. Of course, right after Valentine's, you're going to pay a little more, or right after or before. So the first thing I do when I come home with a bouquet like this is to open it up, fill a bunch of small vases that I've collected with room temperature water, tablespoon of sugar each, and a dot of bleach in each container. So that's to keep the flowers lasting. And then I take my bouquet and start to break it up into its various pieces. So see here we have alstroemeria, we have some hydrangea, one nice Gerber daisy, some green filler, and a lot of mums, which is pretty typical to do at a supermarket. So we're going to move the green button mums here, some of the more daisy purple mums by themselves over there, and so we'll keep breaking it up into their own components in separate categories. So a lot of these containers you'll see that I either collected from old jam jars, old Orangina soda bottles, and maybe some old medicine bottles, and then some nicer vases that people have given me as gifts. The container doesn't matter as long as it is waterproof. So any little small container will do. And it's nice to pick them up from your recycling bin and or at flea markets and garage sales around town. So the only tool you're really going to need besides your hands are a nice pair of flower snips. These are sharpened, and I've cleaned them with rubbing alcohol, just a swipe, so that they won't reinfect other flowers when I go prune them afterwards. So we've got them separated into separate categories, and I'm going to start with what I have the most of, and that looks like I have the most of these pinky purple mauve mums. And so I'm going to see what container I'd like it to be in. I'm going to trim the ends up to, I don't know if you can see it that well on camera, right above the first node that's showing. So it's going to come right here above that node, and I'm trimming them on an angle so I can take up as much water as possible. And I'm going to put this in an old milk bottle. I think that looks pretty. So voila, one arrangement done already. And the next thing I want to pick out is the one premium flower they put in this bunch was a Gerber daisy. And you'll see they put a little plastic straw holder around it. With Gerbers, you only want to fill water up to about an inch or two at the bottom, because if you put it higher up on the stem, it starts to engorge and rot up and down the stem. So you only want a little bit of water in the container. And I'm going to measure to see what container I'd like for that one. And I think I'll pick this IKEA vase that was just $1 or $2. And again, I'm going to trim off a little of the end. There's no growth nodes showing, but I'm just going to give it a couple inches off. And I'm going to pour off a lot of the water. And just leave, that's about an inch or two in there. So just a single solitary little stem. And I think that would look gorgeous next to my computer work desk. And so that one's done there. And let's see what else we had in this beautiful package. Some heather, so some nice greens here. Kind of looks skimpy or airy on its own, and I think that's what I will use the little small containers for. So don't be afraid, even though they gave you all this length, to cut back as much as you want to. It's your flower, it's your dime, do what you want. So I'm going to cut a lot of stem off, and I'm going to strip off all the lower foliage. You want all the foliage that's below the water line gone, as it will start to rot when it sits in the water, so you don't want any of the greens below the water line. I think that looks pretty good. Let's try that in one of the smaller vases. I think that's a sweet little arrangement. I think this will go next to maybe the guest bathroom sink. I think that would be a really sweet thing to have right there. So that's our third arrangement out of the one bouquet. Next, I'm going to use some of the heavier hydrangeas. I think both of these, since they're so strong and gorgeous, can totally stand to go on their own. The foliage is not looking so great though, so I'm just going to snap off the little chewed on leaves. And you see very major growth nodes on this stem, and I'm going to cut right above that last one there, cutting again at an angle. I'm going to pick, maybe I'm going to go color on color, green on green. Maybe I'm going to use the Orangina bottle. I think that will look really good. That, I think, will look great next to my bedside table, or right next there in the morning. And let's see. And I want to see more of the flower and less of this crunched up foliage, which got a little damaged in transit. So I'm going to pick a lot of that off of there and maybe stick two in there. So the cardinal rule of flower arranging is do everything in odd numbers. So 1s, 3s, 5s, 7s. But I think once in a while we can break that rule, and these two larger flowers can be combined and look great on their own. So you could do that with 2 roses, 2 tulips. I think a kissing couple looks just fine on its own. So that will be my bedside arrangement. Now we have these little green button mums, and like I said, don't be afraid, even though they gave you all this length to work with, to chop it all off. And we're going to go for a super short arrangement with this one. So some of the foliage is looking really ratty on this, so we're going to strip all of that off. And let's see, I like some of the more tiny vases. So I'm going to go right above the growth node, cut that off, and then see, experiment a little, if I like this one, or maybe this one. I think I'm going to cut even more. So I think what we're going to do is cut out a ton of that length, and there's some of the button mums down here. And I'm going to go for the nicer crystal vase and fill it with a lot of shorter, and just make a nice tabletop arrangement. This one could go like on a breakfast nook or table, maybe next to your kitchen sink. And I just love that lime green color, that chartreuse. So we can cut a few of those shorter if we'd like to, and have a nice mounded look. So let's try for that. So I'm going to strip them all down to their own single stems, because they're grouped on a larger stem. And then I'm going to trim them off all at the same height. I'm gripping them, call this the Kung Fu grip, between my thumb and forefinger. And I'm going to trim them all off at an angle, at the same length approximately. That one a little bit more of a trim. Make sure there's no foliage below the water line. Especially with mums, I don't know if you've ever experienced changing the water of your mums and the stink that can accompany that. And now I have a nice rounded mound of beautiful chartreuse mums, and I think that will go right next to my kitchen sink over here. So I'll put that there to enjoy in the morning. And the last thing we had is these gorgeous alstroemeria and a few pieces of greenery. And I think those can go back into the original bamboo vase I had. And with alstroemeria, they are one of the most long-lasting of cut flowers. Usually you can get a good, I would say 2 weeks minimum out of them. So with cut flower care, you definitely want to change the water completely out. Don't just add new water every couple of days. And when you change the water out, you're going to add more, a little more sugar, a touch more bleach, and let's see if how that looks. I think we need another piece of something in there. Maybe one of these leftover heathers that we have. And that'll give us the 5 pieces and another little hint of of color there, and our last piece of greenery. So, voila, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and with our kitchen arrangement, 6 flower arrangements from one generic Safeway bouquet. Thank you all for joining me. Santino. Here we go. Here we go over here. Hi, I'm Kathy Jentz. I'm editor of Washington Gardener magazine, all about local gardening in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.